Asia Euro University, the Department of International Relations. So welcome to the United Nations system. Chapter 4, Maintaining International Peace and Security. Overview: Linking International Relations Series, Maintaining Peace and Security, Mechanism for Peaceful Settlement and Preventive Diplomacy, Collective Security Enforcement and Sanction. Maintaining international peace and security. The natures of war and conflict has changed in the past 60 years. A sharp decrease in the incidence of interstate war. The twofold of interstate called internal armed conflict because of the collapse of weak states such as Somalia, ethnic conflict, civil war in Sudan, intervention of other state or group in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Since 2005, most new conflicts are relatively minor and kill few people. The developments, the result of three major political changes: one, the end of colonialism; two, the Cold War's end; three, the end of superpower rivalry that paralyzed many efforts to deal with the threat to peace and increase international activities, especially by the UN to stop ongoing wars and the UN charters mainly focus on the primary threat to peace and security happening in the interstate wars. Since 1945, the majority of all conflicts have been within states, with only a few exceptions until the end of the Cold War. The Security Council rarely determined that civil war were a threat to international peace and security. Since 1990, the conflicts within states have been the Council's primary focus. The UN member states have empowered the Security Council to play a more active role in the post-conflict and peace-building efforts. Many post-Cold War conflicts accompanied by humanitarian disaster resulting from fighting, ethnic cleansing, genocide, the collapse of governmental authority of failed state, or famine and diseases. Traditionally, security means state security. The security of border, control over the population, the freedom from interference in the government's sovereignty over its international affairs. Within the body of internationally recognized human rights norms, steadily spending the second half of the 21st century, the balance between the rights of sovereign state and the rights of people began to shift. Increasingly, it was argued that human security take precedence over security, government, or state. So, security, there are two kinds of security: state security and human security. So, state security mainly about sovereign state, mainly. The government want to strengthen their power or maintaining the security of the state. But human security involves many things, involved with human rights and democracy and development, for example. This shift have provided support for the new norms of responsibility to protect relations and rights and legitimacy for armed intervention to protect human beings against the violence of governments, paramilitary forces, militias, and police. For instance, the rapid governance of international opinion on the needs for action against the Al-Qaeda regime in Libya in early 2011 that contrasted with the slow responses to genocide in Rwanda 1994 and Darfur 2004. The changing nature of conflicts and complex humanitarian crises are two challenges to peace and security in the 21st century. Other threats include the spread of WMD means a weapon of mass destruction, refer to nuclear weapon and terrorism. Linking international relations series. International relations series differs sharply in the use of the causes of war and whether and how international institutions can respond to the use of armed force and conflicts. The release come in hard and soft variety when dealing or threat of force, breaches of peace and conflict resolution. With hard variety, traditional release live in the state like the use of force and the role of power struggle among states in promoting conflict. Release don't see many differences between the dynamics that give rise to interstate and intra-state conflicts. In the release eyes, balance of power, politics, alliance, and force itself are key means to resolve conflict since the IGO do not provide effective mechanism. Should any consideration be given to intervention by a third party, only major power have resources to influence the parties or intervene effectively, but their incentive to do so are often limited. The sovereignty of release come closer to liberal in some respects, and they envisage a broader range of options and actors. Diplomacy and mediation are among the options. Soft release considered valuable for dealing with conflicts, and use of force in order to change parties, cost-benefit analysis in favor of peaceful settlement versus war. They also recognize the role of IGOs as interveners. Liberals have traditionally supported international law and organization as approaches to peace, and hence the concepts of embodied in the UN Charter reflect liberal theory. They also believe that economic interdependence and the spread of democracy will reduce the incidence of armed conflicts. This so-called liberal democratic peace is a basis for contemporary post-conflict peace-building activities. Liberalism also sees NGO and IGO as well as individual state and ad hoc group among the actors that may play a role as third party in peaceful efforts to settle disputes, stop fighting once it has started, secure settlement and build conditions for peace. Thus, while liberals don't oppose the use of force when necessary, they prefer to use non-military means, including sanction and diplomacy, to avert or end armed. Since the mid-1990s, constructivism has contributed substantially to understanding the evolution and the role of norms, as well as reconceptualizing the security itself. Constructivists have examined the changing norms on the use of foreign groups to be protected. They have shown how norms against specific weapons and the taboos on the use of chemical and nuclear weapons have evolved over time. They have traced the emergence of the R2P norm and the role of NGO in the convention banning landmines and cluster munitions. R2P means responsibility to protect. So the idea means to prevent like mass killer, large killing or genocide. Cluster bomb, like cluster munition, example. So the value analysis in international relations, so individual, personality, perception, activities, or choices. State, economy, national interest, intergroup. So from individual example, possible explanation for the United States invasion of Iraq in 2003. Individual level, Saddam Hussein was an evil leader who committed atrocity against his own people, defied the West. Number two, because Saddam Hussein was irrational, mean no reason. Otherwise, he would have capitulated to the superior capability of the US and British coalition. Number 3, George W. Bush and his advisor targeted Saddam Hussein and Iraq in 2001. State level analysis. Number 4, the United States must protect its national security and Iraq weapons of mass destruction strengthen US security. Number 5, ousting the Taliban from Afghanistan was only the first step in the war on terrorism. Invading Iraq, a known supporter of terrorism, was the second. Number 6, the United States must be assured of a stable oil supply, and Iraq has the world's second largest reserves. Number 7, the United States must not permit states that support terrorism or terrorist groups access to destructive weapons. Number 8, it is the UN national interest to build a progressive Arab regime in the Middle East. International level analysis. International system level. 9. UN resolution condemning Iraq had to be enforced to maintain the legitimacy of the United Nations. Number 10. A unipolar international system is uniquely capable of responding to perceived threat to the stability of the system. And the US invasion was one manifestation of his capability. Number 11, there is an international moral imperative for humanitarian intervention to oust evil leaders and install democratic regime. Containing perspectives on international system. From a realism international system as anarchic, from liberal, interdependent international order, from radical high classes or highly stratified constructivism kind of internal system exists as social construct. This one we learn from previous lectures, so just view constraint on international system. So we have realism, polarity, liberal, interdependent, and radicalism, capitalism, stratification, and constructivism ongoing in the action. A realist perspective. A realist interpretation of the 2003 Iraq war would focus on state level and international level actors. A realist see the international system as anarchic. No international society governed and two states other than the United States are able and willing to act to rid the world of Iraq's threat. Iraq posed a security threat to the United States with its support stockpile of weapons of mass destruction. The United States saw a need to eliminate those weapons and at the same time to ensure stable oil supply to the West. The only way to achieve this objective was to oust Saddam Ba'athi regime from power in Iraq, having escalated its threat and assessed its troops on Iraq borders to coerce the regime into giving up power. The United States had no choice but to act militarily when that coalition failed. From liberal perspective, a liberal view of the 2003 Iraq war would utilize the three-level analysis. With respect to individual level, Saddam was clear an abusive leader who atrocity against his own population, example. He was aggressive not only against domestic opponents of his regime but also against other people in the region. I don't follow. Constructivist perspective. Constructivist view of the 2003 Iraq war would focus on several factors. Constructivist theory would emphasize the social construction of threat, how US policymakers constructed Saddam Hussein and reported WMD, weapon of mass destruction. Then imminent threat to the United States, even though UN inspectors claimed that weapon program had been dismantled. The constructive nature of the threat comes evident when comparing Iraq to Israel or Great Britain, both of which possess sophisticated nuclear weapons but are not considered threatening and are in fact close allies. The United States recognized the need for legitimacy of its action being socialized into those norms. That explains the considerable effort the United States expended in trying to obtain UN Security Council approval for the invasion, though in the long run those efforts failed. In much constructively thinking, international organizations such as UN play a powerful legitimizing and socializing role in international relations. But in 2003, this constructional legitimacy was overwhelmed by the US, a single powerful state led by an administration highly critical of collective security. Maintaining peace and security, UN Charter and its evolution. The primary purpose of the UN to maintain peace and security, many provisions of the UN Charter likely unused during the 40 years of the Cold War, have seen far more use since 1989. Over time, the UN has also created new ways of addressing security threats and seeking to secure peace, demonstrating the flexibility of the UN Charter. The United Nations Charter in Article 2, example, obligates all members to settle disputes by peaceful means, to refrain from threat or use of force, and to cooperate with the UN-sponsored action. So based on the Charter of the UN in Article 2, want all the state members of the UN to solve the conflict by peaceful means, not use of force. The use of force for territorial annexion, to get from one country, part of country, laid from to annex, to link to their own one, is now widely accepted as illegitimate. Witness the broad condemnation of Iraq invasion of Kuwait in 1990 and the large number of states that contributed to the UN-led military electoral effort to reverse the occupation. The use of force in self-defense against the armed attack is accepted and was the basis of the Security Council authorization of the US military action after the September 2001 terror attacks. International norms prescribe, however, that the response must be proportional to the provocation. The basis for widespread condemnation of Israel's large-scale military response in 2006-2009 to rocket fire by Hezbollah and Hamas from Lebanon and Gaza, respectively. A large majority of states accept the legitimacy of using force to promote self-determination, replace illegitimate regime and correct past. The UN Security Council refused in 2003, however, to authorize the use of force against Iraq, leading the United States to form an ad hoc coalition to remove Saddam Hussein from power. In 2011, however, the Council authorized all necessary means to stop the Libyan government from using force against its citizens. As discussed in Chapter 2, the Security Council has primary responsibility for maintenance of international peace and security. Chapter 4 specifies the way in which Security Council can promote peaceful settlement of disputes. For example, under Article 34, Security Council may investigate issues that threaten international peace and Chapter 7, what some would call the teeth of the Charter, specify action the UN can take with respect to threat to peace, breaches of peace, and acts of aggression. The Security Council can identify aggressor, decide what enforcement measures should be taken, and call on members to make military force available, subject to special agreement. Because the Cold War made concurrent among the Security Council permanent members almost impossible to achieve, Chapter 7 was invoked on only 2 occasions during the period. Since 1989, however, the situation has changed dramatically and Czechoslovakia has been evoked on many occasions to authorize the use of force and various types of sanctions by UN alone by regional organizations or on coalition building led by the particular countries such as the United States, Haiti, Australia, East Timor, Great Britain, Sierra Leone. Today, it is command for the more UN peace operation to have mandate under Chapter 7. Chapter 8 recognizing the rights and responsibilities of regional organizations to make every effort to achieve peaceful settlement of local disputes before referring them to the Security Council. Referring means sending. When a regional organization seeks to use force, however, Security Council authorization is required to maintain the UN's primacy with respect to international enforcement, with respect to means related to. In some cases, a regional IGO has acted first and sought Security Council authorization retroactively. Since 2003, NATO, the EU, and the African Union have emerged as the primary regional organizations involved in peace organizations, often in partnership with the UN, as exemplified by the AU-UN hybrid mission in Darfur. Collective security enforcement and sanction, mechanism for the peaceful settlement of disputes. Hague Conferences 1899 and 1908, Conventions for the Pacific Settlements of International Disputes, foundation of the mechanism still in use today. Acknowledgement of dead-end street, need for mediation, international community's stake in preventing war. Preventive diplomacy, intended to exchange the cultures of the involved parties and steer the situation towards peaceful settlement. Studies suggest that it is possible to prevent conflicts from spinning out of control. Therefore, need for timely alert system when the UN plus cooperating body. The rising prevalence of culture of prevention. Collective security enforcement and sanctions. We have mediation, adjudication, and arbitration. Arbitration like a referee or umpire, nhà báo. Mediation ការសម្របសម្រួល may work only in situation of ripeness. All parties seek their cause in case of conflict high enough to seek for alternatives. Mediator like state, IGO, NGO, individual, and multi-party mediations. Roles: organizer, educator, risk taker, catalyst for change, conciliator, policymaker, discipliner, mediator with muscle. Distinct role of ad hoc mediators and regional organization. Central role of the UN Secretary General. Adjudication and arbitration. Impartial third-party tribunals. Finding the basis for settlement in the international law rather than in political negotiation and diplomacy. The Hague Peace Conference, example, permanent court of arbitration. Famous arbitration like the case of Argentina against Chile in Vatican, Israel, the case of Israel and Egypt, Ethiopia and Eritrea. But issue may be deemed as inherently political and therefore inappropriate for arbitration by one or more sides, to be deemed as regarded as. Important case: the U.S. against Nicaragua. The U.S. contested the ICJ's arbitration, withdrew from compulsory jurisdiction, contested its rights to join issue in the Americas. America means the three America, North, South, and Central America. ICJs overruled and constituted a moral victory for Nicaragua, territorial and maritime disputes. Collective security enforcement and sanction. The notion of collective security relies on the idea that peace is indivisible and that secession may be deterred by international organizations and pacts between nations. League of Nations already laid down the grounds for enforcing collective security but failed to respond to Japanese invasion of Manchuria 1931, Manchuria in China, Eastern China, and Italian in Asia B 1935. UN Charter provides legal means for collective security, but restricted during the Cold War. Chapter 8 provides the Security Council with the option to authorize the use of force. Opportunity to invoke the Chapter 7 expanded its evolution of security threats. Collective security effort involve armed forces. Korea, example, Korea, the Gulf War, Bosnia and Kosovo, Afghanistan, anti-piracy enforcement. Enforcement and sanction. International forum leads to enhanced opportunity to negotiate sanction. Growing use since the end of the Cold War, used in 15 situations between 1990 to 2001, 14 involving intra-state conflicts, 4 terrorism, and 3 proliferation of nuclear weapons. Often also unilateral sanction by the US. Embargoes, embargo means kick off or start, cheap and effective if comprehensive, flat or targeted. Lifted when change of behaviors occurs, often accompanied by a restructuring plan, inducement for step-by-step development in the desired direction, but may trigger humanitarian crisis, trigger means cause, such as in Iraq in the 1990s, may bring about state failure, may bolster the popularity of sanctioned leaders, unsuitable in cases of failed state and armed factions, unlikely to work unless it directly affects the leaders. Hence, start sanction, targeting elites, alleviating the consequences of sanctions on civilians, requires intelligence to identify flows of goods and capital. Success depends on its comprehensibility and monitoring. Large-scale use of sanctions in the war on terrorism, difficult to evaluate the effectiveness of sanctions. This is the end of presentation. Thank you for watching.